The government's interoperable open network for digital commerce, or ONDC, has been launched in Bengaluru for the first big test. ONDC is aimed at helping small retailers go online to reduce the dominance of the likes of Amazon and Flipkart.
I really believe ONDC is an idea whose time has come.
It is Government of India's most ambitious project after UPI. In fact, ONDC could do to online shopping what UPI did to digital payments.
Hello everyone. After the successful execution and population scale adoption of Aadhaar and UPI, ONDC is the talk of the town. Guys, as you might be aware that ONDC, or Open Network for Digital Commerce, is a non-profit initiative by the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade of Government of India, which aims to democratize the digital commerce space. Now, what do I mean by that? To give you a perspective, over 60% of the Indian e-commerce market is dominated by Amazon and Flipkart. And this duopolistic dominance is leading to nothing but the abuse of power by these e-commerce giants. From copying the small businesses to starting private level brands using their data like Amazon Basics, Amazon Fresh, Flipkart Smart Buy, these giants are wiping out the small players and MSMEs. And not just that, the high platform charges of these e-commerce players are also a major hindrance for many small players to sell their products online. Also guys, a very important point to note over here is that food and grocery accounts for around 68% of the retail market, but commands just 5% of the e-commerce market in India, which evidently proves that most of the small and hyper-local retailers aren't digitally connected. And these brick-and-mortar businesses are heavily affected by the duopoly and heavy discounting of these e-commerce giants. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, here comes our savior ONDC, which is established to curb down the monopolies of these e-commerce giants and to support the grassroots level businessmen and entrepreneurs to digitize their small and medium-sized businesses by making them an active participant in the India's e-commerce revolution. Guys, this project is very innovative and indeed has the potential to bring a paradigm shift in the operations of India's digital commerce. But a major question on the table is, will ONDC disrupt the e-commerce space of India and be successful in curbing down the dominance of big players, or will this implausibly innovative project come out to be a flop? Well, let's dedicate this video to understand bit by bit of what exactly is ONDC. Is ONDC actually a disrupting idea like UPI, and what are the shortcomings and challenges which can make ONDC a failed project? So guys, be with us till the end. Before starting out, let me clear it up very first. ONDC is not an e-commerce app or a website. It is just a platform based on open source methodologies and network protocols. To understand this, let's compare it with UPI. Guys, what is an UPI? Simply speaking, UPI is a single platform which merges various banking services under one umbrella. So here I have a question for you. Is UPI an app or is it a website? None, right? UPI is just a platform, and apps like Google Pay, Phone Pay, Paytm are UPI based payments app through which you can make digital payments. On the same line, ONDC is just a facilitator program which onboards various stakeholders or participants and enable e-commerce transactions. And guys, speaking about the participants, ONDC majorly has three participants: buyer-side applications, seller-side applications, and logistic partner. Let's understand it in more detail. And guys, if you're already aware of this, you can move to this timestamp. So what are buyer-side applications? These are the platforms like Paytm Mall or PhonePe and other banking or payment apps who are having huge user bases but are struggling to monetize. These ONDC-based buyer-side apps are the place where the end users will be searching their products. For example, let's take honey. Now, once I search honey in Paytm, this search query will be multicasted to various seller-side apps like eSamudai and other ONDC-based e-commerce platforms via ONDC Gateway. And based on that, various search results will be displayed in the buyer side app, that is Paytm itself, where the user can choose the seller, let's assume X, and also they can choose the product. After that, the seller side app X will get the order request from Paytm, and seller side app X will send the order confirmation to Paytm, and from there on, the user can choose logistic partners like eCart or Dhandha and make the payment. Now comes the delivery part, where the chosen logistic partners will confirm the order and contact the seller side app for the order and make the delivery. So guys, this is the entire transaction process of an ONDC enabled e-commerce app. And after this, you will also agree that ONDC is far more operationally intensive than UPI. And execution of ONDC on ground will be far tougher than UPI, as there are several factors and stakeholders which ONDC has to take care of. Having said that, The main question which surfaces is, will ONDC be able to bring in the same magnitude of disruption as UPI did in the payment space? Well, the road is indeed very tough with a plethora of roadblocks. And guys, even if ONDC become the UPI moment for the Indian e-commerce, still, will it be able to fulfill the expectations with which it was started? What I mean is, ONDC's primary goal is to democratize the e-commerce space and end the monopoly of the existing players. But if you see the existing market of UPI, only 3 players, Google Pay, PhonePe and Paytm, holds around 95% of the market share. So guys, the questions still remain unanswered. How will ONDC avoid such a situation where the network itself is dominated by a few players as in case of UPI? And guys, in this case, the whole purpose of ending the dominance and establishment of ONDC gets somewhat defeated. Also, another point to be noted is NPCI, the parent of UPI, holds the enormous power with UPI crossing 10 billion rupees in value. Even RBI also attempted to create a new umbrella entity to bypass the power concentration risk of NPCI. Similarly, ONDC, which is also owned by some private players, can pose the same power concentration risk. And guys, even if we ignore the unanswered roadblocks, then there are 3 possibilities which can happen with ONDC in future. First case is where ONDC becomes the ultimate disruptor in the e-commerce industry. But this is only possible in the near future if big players like Amazon and Flipkart joins in, since onboarding these big players will bring in instant scale and traction. I'm not saying this. This was told by the CEO of ONDC, T. Kosi himself, that if big e-commerce players refuse to support ONDC, then it will take a lot more time for ONDC to make its mark in the Indian e-commerce industry. Now guys, in this first case which we are discussing, let's assume that these big players and big manufacturers get onboarded, then to a major goal of ONDC might get compromised. That is to empower the local retailers and small businesses. As these big brands and deep-pocketed retailers are enough technically and financially sound to overpower the small retailers who are not that sound in digital marketing and technologies. So this poses a big challenge to empower and educate these small and not so technically sounded retailers and small businesses. Now coming to the second case, what if big players refuse to join? Then ONDC will have to work with the banking partners on the buyer side, whereas new startups and small retailers on the seller side. In this case, ONDC might be successful in empowering the small businesses to a substantial extent, but will that be called a disruption in the market? This question still remains. Ladies and gentlemen, this was all from a business point of view. Now, what about customers? Because in the end, in e-commerce, all that matters is customer experience. You might be aware that ONDC is launched in some cities in the pilot phase. And the data which is collected shows that ONDC is not proving to be a cheaper option for the customers. As per the report of JMFL, upon comparing the price of some products across a few restaurants in Bangalore shows that the final price on the ONDC is almost similar or even more than Zomato and other apps. Also considering the discount and offers, Zomato and Swiggy seems to be a viable option for ordering food than ONDC in current scenario. Another important point is, groceries were listed mostly at the MRPs with delivery charges on the top of it. Another very critical point is, ONDC is charging delivery fees on every order as the order might be from a different seller. Whereas on the other grocery apps like Zepto, Blinkit, Big Basket, they are not only offered at a discounted prices, but the delivery charges are charged on the total, not product wise. Apart from that, above a certain amount, the delivery charges are free on most of these quick commerce and grocery apps. Considering all the above points, the existing apps overpower ONDC in terms of customer preference and experience. And I'm not saying this. The data from ONDC Analytics Cloud for the months of June, July and August shows that order flows in the pilot phase have been very minimal, with average total searches per day ranging around only 2,000 to 3,000, with less than 5% conversion. Guys, lack of brand awareness might also be one of the reasons for this low initial traction in the pilot phase. Anyways, keeping these metrics apart, let me ask you a question. What is the biggest asset these big e-commerce players like Amazon, Flipkart and even Zomato have, due to which they became a monopoly in the market? Ladies and gentlemen, it is the humongous data, the behavioral data of you and I. This data has what made them formidable in the industry. Due to this humongous data, they are able to understand what products are widely bought in which location. And no doubt, this is the reason that their private label brands like Amazon Basics and Flipkart Smart Buy is so successful. They use this transactional and behavioral data to determine the inventory to be carried and the pricing of the products. And ladies and gentlemen, this is where ONDC lacks again. Existing e-commerce players have already accumulated a huge amount of data till date, and they can establish a competitive advantage using this data against ONDC. Now you might argue that even ONDC will accumulate this data 10 years down the line. No, my friend, currently ONDC frameworks limits data usage and storage. Also, the buyer side and seller side are two different entities in ONDC and are completely separate. On the buyer side, for example, Paytm Mall will be having the customer data, but the seller side, that is the e-commerce players, might not get access to the data, which ultimately will not influence the pricing and inventory due to lack of data. Now here's a catch again. Big e-commerce have the technical as well as capital feasibility to act as both buyer side and seller side participant. Now even if they join as both, then they will have the partial access to the data regarding the transactions that are happening on their buyer side platform, ultimately giving an edge over the small retailers. Now guys, this question is also unanswered as to how ONDC will handle such a situation. So what's your take on this? I personally think ONDC will not disrupt the Indian digital commerce landscape, but will only evolve it to a certain extent. Putting an end to the monopoly of existing big players is not going to happen anytime soon. And will ONDC be able to empower the small retailers and increase the digital literacy in the country is yet to be seen. So guys, what do you think about ONDC? Do you think will it be as successful as UPI? Do let us know your thoughts in the comment section. That's all guys for this video. If you found it insightful, do like the video, share it with your friends and subscribe to this channel for more such business content.